Hi everyone, this is Paul Garrard. I'm founder and president of PGPresents, an independent student loan consulting company. We've put together a series of repayment modules designed to help you guys do a better job of managing your student loans. Module number 7 is on repayment calculators. Now we're going to talk about 3 different repayment calculators. The first one is at Thinaid.org. It's for simple, what I call quick and dirty calculations. The Repayment Estimator, which is on the federal government's website at studentaid.gov. It's terrific for what I call what-if scenarios. We're going to look at that in just a moment. And then by far the best calculator for medical residents and fellows, the MedLoans Organizer and Calculator from the Association of American Medical Colleges. You can find it at aamc.org/MLOC. Very important to remember about any calculator you use, including any calculator that might be on your loan servicer's website. For time-driven repayment plans, the standard 10-year and 25-year plan, the loans are held to term, meaning no aggressive payments at all, and the loan is held all the way till the end of the 10-year or 25-year term. For income plans like pay-as-you-earn and revised pay-as-you-earn, the calculators are going to assume no change in marital or tax filing status based on what you initially put in and no change in family size. There's no way a calculator could know that you're single now, but you're going to be married in 4 or 5 years. So very important to remember the assumptions, especially on income plans. I mentioned this earlier. The calculators assume no aggressive payments and they assume no interruption in payments. For example, they do not run a calculation based on several years of repayment, then a period or 2 of forbearance, and then picking back up and making payments again. The assumptions are no aggressive payments and no interruption in payments. And for income plans, very important to note that the calculation will include a designated annual income increase. In the repayment estimator, it's 5%. In the MedLoans Organizer and Calculator, I believe it's just the regular inflation amount. Now, as helpful as the repayment calculators are in providing you with an estimate of your payments, remember it's the loan servicer who is going to determine your actual repayment amount under whichever plan that you choose. But also remember the income-driven repayment plans like Pay and Repay, the monthly calculations are based on a set federal formula that's used by all the calculators and all the loan servicers, so you should not be getting a different number from your loan servicer than what you get when you use a repayment calculator, as long as you are both using the same information. Long story short, you should never be surprised by the monthly payment that your loan servicer comes up with on an income-driven repayment plan. If you're a returning student and you're using a calculator, after you upload your NSLDS federal record into the calculator, that's available on most all calculators, don't forget you're going to need to add or estimate the prospective borrowing you're going to have before you graduate from medical school to be sure you get an accurate read. If you're a senior and you've done all your borrowing and you do not anticipate borrowing any more federal loans, well then after you upload your NSLDS record into the calculator, it should be accurate. Now, the first calculator to discuss can be found at Thinaid.org. We don't think you'll use this very often, but if you need a quick and dirty estimate of the repayment amounts under the time-driven repayment plans, the 10 and 25-year plans, this is a good place to go. It does not accommodate different interest rates on all your loans and the accrued interest, and by that we simply mean if you think you're going to have around $200,000 in borrowing, I would not suggest you put in $200,000 into the calculator. You need to accommodate the accrued interest over the 4 years and grace period that you have on your loans. So it might be more appropriate to put in around $230,000 to get a more accurate read on what your payments will be, taking into account the accrued interest. The Thinaid.org calculator is very easy to use. Simply go to Thinaid.org, select Calculators, then Loan Calculator. Scroll down and you'll see a box where you put your balance, change the interest rate to whatever you need the rate to be for the average rate on all the loans you have, Enter the repayment term, 10 or 25 years. You can leave everything else alone, hit calculate, and you'll get an estimate of what the monthly payment will be over 10 years or 25 years. Now, the next calculator for us to look at is the Repayment Estimator, and it's available on the federal government's website, studentaid.gov. You can go right to it at studentaid.gov/repayment estimator. I've nicknamed this the what if calculator because this calculator will let you very easily figure out things like, what if I get married? What's the payment amount going to be if I file jointly versus separately with my spouse? What if my spouse has federal student loans? What kind of impact is that going to have on my monthly payment with an income-driven repayment plan? What if my income goes up? How high can my payments actually go with plans like pay and repay? What if I have children? What's going to happen to my monthly payment? So once again, you can run all sorts of what if scenarios with the repayment estimator at studentaid.gov. But as good as this calculator is, a word of caution, the repayment estimator does not take into account your years of residency and fellowship training. In other words, it has no way of knowing that for at least 3 years and perhaps longer, you're going to be at a stipend level in terms of your income, and that your income is going to jump up as an attending physician. And so for that reason, do not use the repayment estimator to look at total repayment cost and forgiveness estimates with the income-driven repayment plans, and do not use it for public service loan forgiveness estimates as well. Once again, it does not take into account residency and fellowship training years. The only reason to use the repayment estimator is to look at the first payment in the payment range you will see when you enter your information to determine what's the impact on my monthly payment going to be. Again, if my income goes up, I have children, I'm married, filing separately, and filing jointly. But that brings us to the last calculator we want to reference, which we would humbly submit is the best calculator available by far for medical students, residents, fellows, and attending physicians. And that's the calculator from the Association of American Medical Colleges and their MedLoans Organizer and Calculator. It's available at aamc.org/MLOC. That is a reference you should have seen before in previous modules. It's broken up into two sections, the organizer and the calculator. Let's take a quick look at those. The first section of MLOC is called the organizer, and this is where you can keep all of your borrowing history, and you can actually upload all your federal borrowing from the National Student Loan Data System, nslds.ed.gov, right into the calculator. But remember, as we said in an earlier module, very important that you put in prospective borrowing if you are a returning student and you have not borrowed everything you're going to borrow from medical school. If you're a senior and you're not going to be taking out any more loans, it will give you an accurate upload when you go to nslds.ed.gov and dump it into the MedLoans Organizer and Calculator. If you are consolidating, we would suggest you do not upload your record from NSLDS. Rather, go into the calculator and in your last year, your senior year, manually input the consolidation loan amount, and that should give you an accurate listing when you run the repayment calculations. Now, the second component part of the AAMC MedLoans Organizer and Calculator, I think this is where this calculator really shines, because the calculator section is where you get to customize repayment based on your own training plans and your own career plans. An easy example is someone who's doing the minimum 3-year residency program in pediatrics. You can go in and put your stipend amount in there, an anticipated salary amount, and by the way, there's a help screen to help you know what those amounts might be. And then you can compare that 3 years of a residency program to a 6-year program if you did a 3-year subspecialty. So it's a great way for you to estimate the repayment and forgiveness amounts under different scenarios of training and career plans. As we close up this module on repayment calculators, remember that calculators simply help prepare you for what you're going to be looking at in terms of repayment amounts after you graduate. You get to choose your own repayment plan, and the calculator should help you know exactly which one is going to help you meet your repayment objectives. Even though the loan servicer determines the actual repayment amounts, you should never be surprised at what those payment amounts are going to be. That's the whole purpose of the calculators. And a reminder, always note the assumptions used in the calculators, especially regarding the income-driven repayment plans, pay and repay. This is the end of module number 7.